Welcome to the 449th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Welcome and thanks for listening. The last time I did an episode, a couple of weeks ago, I was getting ready to run the Dana Peak 100K trail race. It's been, I can't tell you when, it's been 10 days that I haven't put up a podcast, but Michael and I flew to Austin to run the race the next morning, and we got a call that my mother had become ill suddenly that morning. The Diva, if you know her from the Diva, the dietitian, and the Doctor, the Diva, and the dietitian cookbook. She had been doing well. She had golfed on Monday at 90 years of age. She did yoga on Wednesday and felt great. Thursday, she had a nice evening with a friend. And Friday morning, she didn't feel well. I got the call, and by the time I talked to her, my nurse came over. She said she was fine and passed away. So that is what we have been dealing with, trying to recover from, and it's been a shock, but she touched many, many lives in a very positive way. I've talked to her about her on the podcast. She was very much at peace. She lived life to the fullest. She never let anything get her down. So she was a force to be reckoned with. And as far as I'm concerned, she's in a better place. But we will truly miss her. Ironically, I had a podcast scheduled with Greg Schnoor, who is a brain cancer survivor, and some of the passages in his book could not have rung more true than what I'm experiencing now, and how running has helped me deal with difficult times such as this. So I hope you'll enjoy the interview with Greg Schnoor. He's a great Florida trail ultra runner. We had a great conversation. And I'll put a link to his book on Facebook. You should all check it out. I'd like to welcome Greg Schnoor to the podcast today. I saw Greg's post on the Florida Ultra running site on Facebook. If you haven't checked that site out, you're a runner, that's a good thing to check out. Probably a year ago, I didn't know there was such a thing as Florida Ultra Runners. But anyway, I saw your reference to your book, Running Away from Cancer, and I latched on real quick and read the book, and I thought it was a fabulous book. You put things about running into words that associate with life, and it just was really, really hit me good. And interestingly, when I read a book, I usually, if I actually have the Kindle version, but if I'm reading it, I mark a book up terribly, and underline and everything. I guess it's from medical school. I like to read. I learn more with my hand than I do with my brain.
Right.
And I highlighted a bunch of things. And last week, my mother passed away. She was 90, but she was the diva of our practice. And you put some things down here, and I'm going to read some of them if I can get through, or maybe I'll make you read them if I can't get through it. But they're very apropos to life in general, and it's a lot of things that I use running for, right. And so I think, yeah, sure, it's great. We're going to talk about running and cancer, but it's, running in life is really, it hits all the way. So before I let you just roll with it, to my understanding, life was good except for some sinus problems, and you decided to have a CT scan of your sinuses, and boom, there was a golf ball in your brain.
That's correct. I was going in for my second sinus surgery. I had one previously 5 years ago when I lived down in Gainesville, Florida. But then I moved back to Pensacola and had sinus issues start happening again. So the doctor had me set up to go and get my sinus surgery to clear things out. And like I kind of mentioned in the book too, so I had just had a scan done to get prepped up and ready for my sinus surgery. And then the next morning, early in the morning, I got a call from the doctor. I didn't know it was him at first, but, he said that they needed to cancel the procedure, for the sinus surgery because they found an area on the scan was the size of a golf ball. So it was more important to take a look at that. And he said it could be something else, some kind of glitch or something, but, don't try to stay positive on it and stuff. So we did. And then we just went on, had to schedule an MRI just to get a better look at it. And sure enough, it came back, the golf ball size tumor in my left temporal lobe of my brain. And it just went on and on, thoughts, and, you don't expect for something like that to happen.
You were
this 30, all happened
30. What? How old? 30?
Let's see. So it was let's see. So this would have been in let's see. So that would have been October 2010. So that I would have been, let's see. Now I'm 46. So I can't even do the math right now. So I guess that would have been 13 years ago, I guess 12, almost 13 years ago. So that would have been 30.
33, 35, yeah, 33.
Yeah, I can't do the math right now.
In your 30s, not what you expect to find in your 30s for a sinus surgery.
Right. Especially 1 month after, our daughter was born. It's like a roller coaster. We finally have our baby girl, and then this happens. You find this out, and it's like, okay. But, just got to stay positive in things. That's kind of how the whole book and story kind of pushes on. And, I wasn't ready for this. I was never prepared for anything like this. Just like that happens to other people, too. You never expect it, when things happen. You just got to take it, address the situation, deal with it and make the best of your life. And that's kind of what I wanted to do.
Is that something that you have? Is that been something that you've dealt your whole life has been around, or your family's been around, or this was just, okay, I'm a new dad and we got to figure this out?
It's pretty much, I'm a new dad. We have to figure this out. Like I said, I had sinus surgery before. It's just basic sinus issues. I have bad sinuses, completely unrelated to the tumor and everything, but in a way, it's kind of been a blessing. I'm kind of glad that I had bad sinuses because that's how they found it before it started really, causing issues in my brain. So you underwent chemo, then radiation, then chemo, which surgery first, took the tumor out. Surgery first. And then, after the surgery, they did the biopsy of the tumor. So again, it was golf ball size. And that's when they found out that it was cancerous. And then after that, we went through the whole game plan at Shands Hospital down in Gainesville. And we had 6 weeks of treatment there. And that included being on chemo, radiation, and just tons of other little, checks and blood work and everything else you can think of. I had like a whole bunch of medicine I was on. I think it was like 15 different pills a day I was on for a while. And, it was just a whole new adventure, not a fun adventure, but, I was in good hands at, family and at Shands Hospital and everywhere else. So it made me, made things a lot easier, especially I used to live in Gainesville like 8 years, for 8 years before. So that helped a lot too, because one of my friends worked at the hospital too. And I got to see him and like, just kind of how life works. You never know what's going to happen. And although all the negative and bad things are happening, all these kind of positive things happen in life. Or maybe they're there, people don't look for those. And that's, I just try to look for the most positive thing in life, because I just feel like being negative, it's not going to do you any good. It's just going to make things a little harder and, even make it more stressed out and stuff.
And so you had an older son and he was running cross country.
Yeah, we had the two older stepsons. They started, it wasn't even cross country. This was in elementary school. they have the after school running club, and they would like try to train and do their first 5K. And luckily, it was just a couple miles down the house, down from the house. So I started joining them, try to get some distance in with them, because at that point I was never a runner. They would want to run in the neighborhood, so my wife would watch our little two ones together. I would take them out and walk with them on the street, let them run, and then I would try to join them. And I mentioned that I had problems where like I could even make it down to like a mailbox like 4 houses down without walking. I mean, it was hard. I was never a runner before all this, and then thankfully through that, it kind of gave me the energy and stuff that being on the chemo that was on after all the treatment and stuff. I mean, it just wore my body out, like no energy. I would be laying on the couch, curled up, my eyes would be closed, but I wasn't sleeping. I just had no energy. And because when I'd go out there with the older boys and walk around the neighborhood and try to run with them, it gave me energy. I could start moving again. And, before I knew it, I was more so living my life instead of just being curled up on the couch. And it was a whole new outlook and stuff. And it just really got to me, and it was really like a real benefit through my life. It really helped me a lot. And if it wasn't for that, I mean, I have no idea how things would be right now. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now. It's just the little things that, that small decision to go out there and like start helping them and just, one foot in front of each other. It really, really changed my life, like in ways I never expected.
You say in the book, finishing my first 5K made me feel good. I felt alive and was filled with energy. Then you said each month while you were building up your miles, you would take off to run. When you had chemo, you would take that week off, but pretty soon you were actually running during the chemotherapy. And that, will probably strike a lot of people as what? You have chemotherapy and you're starting to be a runner. Those two don't necessarily go together.
Yeah. So for a while, I wouldn't do that. But after a while, I started doing the runs with it. And even when I was like training for my first marathon, there was times when my long run was on that week of the chemo. And again, the chemo I was on is called Timidor. Mm-hmm. It's a pill type. So, but even that, I mean, it would get to me, because like I said, I would skip those weeks, but after a while, so many months, I started doing it, like just seeing how I felt. And really, I felt better. It did make me feel better. I would drain my energy out, like, after those runs and just that whole week. And really, it wasn't that whole week. It's more like about the whole week and like 2 or 3 extra days after that week. I would be drained out. They were rough building up to them, but it kept getting better. So I continued that on, during the training program I was in for my first marathon. And finally, when it came up to the month of my marathon, my oncologist, they let me skip that month just because I was building up to the final one. And I won't mention about that first marathon if you've read the book yet, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite an undertaking to, do I'm going to build up, of course, we all get excited, it's 5K, 10K, half marathon, you just kind of get caught up in the excitement. When I ran my first marathon, my mother's words after I finished, well, did you get that out of your system? And the only thing I was thinking is like, I think I might be able to go a little faster,
And, for the next race to register for.
Yeah, and as basically, it became which one can we do it? And I had some friends that I was running with, and it became almost our second job. Where it's like we're gonna we start doing the rock and roll series of marathons, and it just became now there's one here and there's one here and there's one here, and if you do this one, you get your bling. And the joke was if somebody went to the bathroom, the other two were signing them up for a marathon. While we were waiting. So. it
Yep.
becomes kind of, I don't know, you just feel good, right? You just feel good. You said it helped you not only physically, but it helped you mentally, with
Yes.
the stress of it all.
Yes. It was definitely, just not only going through the cancer and stuff, but obviously there's a lot more parts of it than just the physical side of things. I mean, just life has changed. I mean, when you go through and get diagnosed with something like that, everything's changed. It's not just, your health side. I mean, how to deal with stuff with work, how to deal with stuff with family stuff. Unfortunately, through this time too, is when I had a lot of people in my family that happened to pass away. It just there's a lot of different things like that going on. I have a big family, and one of the things is like my father and my godmother, they passed away on the same day from two different things. So I woke up with my godmother being passing away, and then before I went to bed, later that night, my dad passed away. And these completely different things. It's just, that's life. You don't know what is going to happen to it. So, with that, and I had like two siblings pass away, and like just random things like this. But through all of that, I don't know why it just had me go out there. Like whenever I had, any kind of negative thoughts or issues going on, I could just go outside, and it almost seems like it wouldn't wash it away, but it would just bring positivity, positive things through my life. And, it's like I mentioned too, that, the whole social side of running too, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten with different friends and go on runs, and just, a lot of times I call it trail talk, even though what I'm referring to more on the streets. But I mean, you have all kinds of conversation. Everyone's going through their own situations and issues, and it's just funny how you can get on the road, even if you go solo. Go run out, nice weather outside, looking at nature at its finest, and just getting that energy in you, and like trying to clear out all the negativity things in life.
Yeah, it's I think when you run with people, the conversations are I don't know what it is, but you tend to have better conversations running than you ever would sitting on the couch talking to somebody. And it just I mean, it's all nothing is off the table when you're running with somebody, and the longer you run, the more you talk about it, and yeah, it's just good. So you're running marathons. And when did the trail stuff come in?
I guess it just started off just while I was building up my distance. I think really how it first started, as I was building up my distance, I went and I tried my first half marathon. Just so happened the first marathon was a trail half marathon. I guess that's probably what got me into the trail stuff. And once I did that, it was a whole different ball game. I mean, it was much different than just running on the streets and stuff. So I just really liked that. And then obviously I still love running on the streets too. But as it built up, once I did some marathons, and I saw like a story, I think it was in the magazine or online, and it mentioned about ultra marathons. I was like, ultra marathons, what's that? I was new to all this. Like I said, I was never a runner before all this, so all this is new to me. I always thought the marathon was like the farthest distance people go, and it was like crazy. And then I found out, people do all these other long distance, like 100-mile runs. And obviously now the hundreds are like 200-mile runs these days. But yeah, as I saw that, I was like, okay, well, I want to sign up for the 50K. So I trained and did my first 50K out, trail run. And I loved it. I mean, it was like just a big thing about being out, in nature and enjoying the trails and just the community. I love street running. I love trail running. I love all the groups. But to me, for something about the trail groups, there's something different to me for ultra marathons. Like, I feel like it's more like a big family to me. Because, I've then luckily, where I've met people say at like a run in some state on the top of a mountain, and then a year later I'll be on some other state running a trail somewhere, and we'll cross paths. And we're like, "Oh, how you doing?" It's just that's just how the trail stuff is. So I just right off the bat, I just love the trail running, and it's more of an adventure to me than just like running fast on the street or something. And I'm not real fast or anything, so I just like the whole, seeing wildlife out in seeing creeks, and a lot of the ones I've done like ran in the sand in the desert, or through slot canyons. Just it's an adventure. It's stuff I want to see, what I want to enjoy. And I always like to take pictures of when I do a lot of the trail runs, and I'll put them up around my house too, different places. So it's just something about trail running that I just really love it, like many others do.
Yeah, I think I agree with you totally. When I first started, I was into kind of running the big marathons, running with the herd. I kind of called it. You line up with 20,000 people that you don't know, 20,000 of your new friends, and you run. And we signed up. I'm originally from West Virginia, and we signed up for the Hatfield and McCoy Marathon. We got down there, and there was probably only about 200 people, and we ran through country roads, and it started out at a little grocery store with a little tiny banner that said "Start," and it was so much fun. And after I did that, it's like, oh my goodness, like it's so much nicer to be in a small group that you actually, like you say, you can actually talk to people, and it's more laid back. And then we, so again, the trail marathon, or the trail, our first one was the Zion, because you were out there as well. We did Zion 50K.
Okay. I'm signed up for that this coming year.
Yeah. There's boulders. I mean, you're following white dots on these giant boulders that you climb up, and we knew nothing about what we were getting into. I remember the first aid station, we were so happy to see people that we stopped. It was like a party at the first aid station. And then we kind of laughed as it went by, because it's like, we can't spend so much time at these aid stations. We're never going to finish, It's like,
all right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, 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 enjoyable. And of course, we tried, I live, about an hour and a half south of Tampa. So it's flat down here. And so we decided we would go find a trail down here. Of course, we went in, I don't know, it was sometime in the summer, and we were running through 6 inches of water that we couldn't see the bottom of. And I just thought, I'm not from Florida. Oh, I told you I was from West Virginia. And I just, this fear of snakes and alligators, you know what I mean? And I just I couldn't see the water. And I thought, oh man, there's stuff in here, or there's things looking at me that I said, no, Florida's not the place. I'm going where I'm pretty sure there's not, of course, then my daughter lives in Texas. So we signed up for these 50 milers. I did Rocky Raccoon 50, but there's a one out there called Benzos. And it's like the most, you said Brazos? Oh, Rocky. Yeah, Rocky Raccoon.
Yeah, Rocky Raccoon. I just did that this year too, the 100.
I only did the 50, and I face planted 4 times there. I realized that you should wear contacts that are equal, not one distance. But again, alligators were everywhere. So, you kind of get past all that. And then we started finding, well, it's like, there's some trail races here in Florida, and started looking. And that's how I stumbled on the Florida Ultra Runners. And, ultimately, well, the problem is that we discovered this a little late in life, so I am a mom, not just, at 60, and so we want to run 100-miler, and we fell in love with Leadville, Colorado.
Okay.
And the marathon out there, the trail marathon, and then we did the 50-miler out there. And of course, now you need to do the 100-miler. Right. And altitude is real when you're coming from Florida. And so we basically signed up for the long haul 100 to see if we can make the distance first. Right. And if we survive the distance, then, we'll go for the, what comes after. But that's kind of how it all got started. And I started following the groups, online and everything. But so you went to 100-miler. And so, okay, so if you've done marathons, and most of the time when you sign up for a marathon, you assume you're going to finish. Most people do, people don't, but most of the time people get through it somehow. But these 100-miler things, that's when the word DNF, did not finish, starts to be, a common word. And it's, there's a certain amount of people, so nobody is free from the possibility of a do not finish when it comes to 100-milers, whether you're an elite athlete or run-of-the-mill kind of person. Because of the distance, anything can happen.
That's correct.
So you signed up for your 100-miler. Did you think that, or you just thought I can muddle through it, or just?
I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I knew it was going to be tough. It was going to be hard. But when I first started, I didn't know anybody that, had done one or anything. I mean, a lot of the runners, friends I had, they did marathons. And even back then, they hadn't done many marathons. And really, I didn't have that many, that would do crazy stuff like that because I just got into running. So, I mean, like I said, I just started like 1 year after my treatment and stuff when I started running to the mailbox. So this was all new to me. So you take off. So, I mean, you did 50K. Did you do in a 50-miler? Did you do 100K first or no? I did 50K. I did 50-miler at Lake Martin in Alabama. And then I did several 100Ks actually. I did one of my own, like a solo one for my birthday. Mm-hmm. And that was like 66 miles. Just running from the local running store here in Pensacola. They also had a store in Fairhope, Alabama. So I decided to do that for my birthday because I like to do stupid things for my birthday, So that was my second 100K, I think it was. It was either my first or second. I forgot which one came first. But so I did 50-milers and 100Ks, and then after that, that's when I was ready to go and do my first 100-miler, which didn't happen. So you got on the first 100-miler, you got the wheels fell off about when? It's about mile 50 or so, building up. I started getting really cold, like probably mile 45 or so, and just, how like in marathon people, a lot of people say you hit the wall at like mile 18 or 20, whatever. I think that's what really happened. I was running. I got really cold. I didn't know how to pack my stuff good. Again, this was all solo. Right. I had never been crewed for anything until this past year. It was the first time I ever had a crew. It was just my brother, because from Texas, but I did Rocky Raccoon actually. But so he, I just got real cold. And this has actually happened twice to where I got really cold and I went to the aid station and I sat down by the fire. And after that, I did not want to get back up. So it's more the mental side of stuff. Overall, I was fit enough. I feel like I would have been good for it, but the mental side of it, I wasn't there. I felt that nice heat. I was thinking about, okay, do I really run through this the rest of the night? And I wasn't prepped up for it mentally. And then the second time, same thing. That one was at Cahote up in Alabama. And then the third time was at Lake Martin, but that one was different because I did something to my knee area, and I had to like limp for a long ways. And it probably happened about mile 30 something, to where even if I had to like go over like a fallen tree, I had to use like both hands to lift my. At that point, I wanted to at least try to make it to the 50-miler, but I knew I wasn't going to finish it because I had to use two hands to like lift my knee over trees. Like, I was in a lot of pain, but I don't know why. I really probably should have just dropped out by then anyways, but I just wanted to keep pushing. So I did that, and that was my third. So I was 0 for 3 in 100-milers. It's crazy.
So, did it ever cross your mind maybe 100K is my race, or you just now it's like, okay, you're in it now. You gotta do it.
No, it was. Really after that time, I kind of, I was like, I definitely had some thoughts like that. So I would just keep running other distances and stuff. But it wasn't that I was going to rule it out. It's just my time was good. It wasn't my time just then. And then later on, build up a lot of mileage and, just constantly doing runs and ultras with friends. We all decided to go and do Kentucky 100 again. This time it was a big group of us doing it. And upon doing that, it's like I learned from each one. The first two was more mental. The third one was, my knee. And then this one was like a group run. And I had never missed a cutoff time before, but, it was more so just dropping out myself. But this time, we had some friends that had some issues and we were waiting for them at the, aid station. And then we'd stay at the aid station. And then we had another friend get cranked up really bad. And then after that, we'll split up the group. And then it was my friend Matt and I, and then he started having some problems later on too. So it was just taking up a lot of time. And it got to the point where that cutoff time was getting closer and closer. So finally, Matt kept telling me to push, to leave him and just go ahead or I'm going to miss the cutoff time, which me being stupid, I had never missed a cutoff time before. So I was like, I stayed with him for a couple of times, but after he said that a couple of times, I was like, okay, I'll go. And then I took off, made all the way up to Pinnacle. I made it up through the night, most of the way through the night. I got to mile 75, and then I missed the cutoff time by less than 5 minutes. Yeah. So, but we wasted so much time, probably at least hour and a half, it felt like, just from waiting at aid stations or walking, and I'm not blaming my friends. Things happen to different people. It's just, it was my fault because I never thought about missing the cutoff time, which I should have though. So again, it's a whole learning, step. Run your own race. And that's the one thing about some of the hundreds. You can't sit there. It's great to be there with your friends, but you can't waste your own time if you never know what's going to happen. Obviously if they if you can stay with them in time, but just keep in mind your own time, I guess. So I was 0 for 4 0 for 4 for 100 milers. And I mentioned too, it's so I've always heard that only a small percentage of people in the world finish a marathon. So then I was thinking, okay, well, how many people in the world, attempt to finish a 100 miler? And then I'm thinking, well, okay, must be a small percentage. But then how many people will attempt their 5th 100 miler after failing 4 times? So that's just, I don't know. I feel like when they removed my tumor, my brain tumor, it's my left temporal lobe. It's part of my memory. And sometimes I feel like maybe it's they removed part of my my smart side of my brain, and maybe I shouldn't be making these decisions. Maybe I just don't know better. So, but I just after that 4th time, it was in my mind, I was like, that's it. Excuse me, but I'm getting my damn buckle. So I signed up for Lake Martin. And I did great. And then, I finally got my belt buckle. And that was, took 4 attempts. And then finally, that 5th time, I got it. But each of the first 2 were the same issues, mental. But the other side is all different reasons. So it's just more taking steps, learning in my head. But again, so since then, though, now I've completed 900 mile runs and stuff. It's so much mental, learning. I think that's why I kept doing the 100 milers is because I learned from them, and it's kind of like a self project. I kind of want to do it and try different things at different parts of the race. And the one thing that made me go fly through the Lake Martin one is it was so simple. It's the second a negative thought comes in my mind, I would just tell it nope, just forget it. I even mentioned that throughout the night, I started laughing at myself because I'm like, it was so easy. Like the second something was starting to creep up, I'm like, nope. And that was it. It's like, it's almost like, the negative thought was like, okay, and look, but, and that was it. And I was able to keep moving forward and, having a smile throughout the whole 100-mile. It was crazy. And then even that, and doing even more for all these other issues and things that went on past that, but still. But something about the 100-miler, I just, something special about them.
And so you have, a little thing like a brain tumor, and you take up running during chemotherapy. And, you made a mention that, you took, you took Timidor, which is a pill for chemotherapy. And I'm in the medical field. And since I've changed my practice, I'm on the side of the medical field that we do a lot of stupid things, and we can talk people into about anything. And it's not always, and we don't always tell people the whole truth. And maybe if you knew the whole truth, you wouldn't sign up for some of the bad things that we do to people. But nevertheless, it's always portrayed that if you're going to take a pill, it's not as bad as those bags running into you. You know what I mean? And so that's a bit of a misnomer. That pill's potent stuff. You're swallowing dynamite. It's not being pumped into your veins, but you're swallowing a lot of things that have negative side effects. And radiation and the chemotherapy, and it's one thing to have the side effects right there, but you also are not really told about what can come along after those. So you're busy saving your life, but then it comes around and you're running these marathons and you're running these ultra marathons, and you're learning from these, and you're making your trajectory up, and everything is great, and then you get hit with a whole new set of side effects.
That's correct.
You had to end up with an arrhythmia.
Yeah, that was the heart issue. That started happening. That first triggered actually a year after I started running. That was before I even got into like the big marathons really and stuff. But the main side effect from the radiation and the chemo stuff was a thing with my eyes.
The shaky eyes.
Yes, the shaky eyes. I forgot the long name that the doctor, I forget what his title was. It's like a oncologist for the eye, something. But I had to drive all the way to Jacksonville from Pensacola to see him. But basically, I was training. Actually, I had signed up for the Lake Tahoe Ridge Run 100-miler, and I was training for it. Things were going good. I was going to the local gym and running on the treadmill for elevation, because live in Florida, we don't have mountains and elevation. So I remember just up there, maybe a couple miles or so, like running up. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, my eyes got real shaky, and just kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, okay, well, maybe it's because I hadn't rested good. I've been, not much sleep. Wasn't, my nutrition probably wasn't good then. Just not much sleep and stuff. So figured, okay, I'll go rest, eat, make sure I sleep good. I'll go on my run the next morning. So I basically blew it off. I didn't think anything of it. So I wake up in the morning, go to start running from my house, probably not even 20 seconds, 15 seconds. Once I started running, like really started, the shakiness started happening again in my eyes. So it's basically whenever my head would bounce, kind of like, it would like, my eyes would get like real shaky. It's weird. If I'm driving or sitting down, it wasn't an issue. It's just like whenever my head would bounce pretty much. And like certain things would trigger it. So I had to go and see the doctor specialist. I saw like 2 or 3 different eye doctors and then the specialist. Also went to an eye doctor down in Gainesville, Shands also. And 2 of the doctors, they confirmed that it was a long-term side effect from the radiation I had, because I had 6 weeks of radiation. And again, I'd have to look up the name. I forgot what it was called. But one thing that would trigger it too would be if my head was like bouncing and like bright lights. Mm-hmm. Like I can remember like even it got to the point to where once I was able to start walking around the neighborhood, I'd have to wear hats and like cover the light. And I would have to like look down on the ground. I couldn't like see the sky. It would like kind of trigger the bouncing stuff. So basically my understanding was like my eyes weren't like in sync with like the movement. And it was crazy. But that happened and it went on for maybe like 3-4 months or so. No, maybe not that long. 3-4 weeks, I think it was. And it just slowly faded out. I did go and see one of my friends. She was a PT. She did some work on me, stuff that kind of helped manage it. Just little things like walks and like twisting my head like real quick and things. But it just slowly faded away. So, as it slowly faded away, I tried to increase my distance. I start running again and then just keep going. And that's kind of how I kind of deal with life, is just try to, if something happens, I just try to deal with it, instead of just thinking it's the end of the world, I guess.
Again, it's funny how things line up. A friend of mine sent me a podcast, and it's kind of funny. The psychologist that was interviewed was from West Virginia, which I don't know if she knew that, it's because I started listening to it. It has to, the topic was savoring, and basically savoring good times. And it's really easy to focus on the negative. And it's like, oh man, but we have to kind of practice the positive. That positive mental attitude is something that we don't necessarily, it's something that has to be learned a little bit. Like even the example was made, if you give if you give a child a gift when they're little, and the parent will say thank you. Or it'll say, what do you say? And they'll say, I like it, instead of thank you. That gratitude has to be, it's a learned trait. And the happiness, taking your time and seeing things is somewhat of a learned trait. And that's kind of what you describe a lot through your journey, is that, you had and again, it's been shown over and over again, people with any kind of disease or any kind of ailment and a positive mental attitude, they're much more likely to get through it. People that exercise are much more likely to get through a cancer, have a decreased risk of it returning. But the people that can appreciate we got problems here, but we got this, you're always told, we got this, and it's like, well, I didn't finish the first couple hundreds, but I learned from it. And it was, and you're taking the good from things, as opposed to, this is not meant to be, it's just not my race. I'm not a runner,
Right.
Woe is me. And, I think that's so important, for people to grasp on and to hear it from people that have experienced it and had to walk the walk. It's one thing for a physician to say, you ought to go out and run while you're having chemotherapy, or you need to go run when you're short of breath, or you feel tired, or you're depressed. And people don't see that. They just say, well, I'm feeling bad. I can't do something like that and make it worse.
Right.
But in reality, you are making it better, and you're starting to see that just being outside, like you say, in fresh air and seeing things, and you meet positive people.
Sure. And to me, this all kind of comes down to me to, like, perfect example is my daughter. She was born 1 month before all this started. So when that happened, I was always concerned and worried, is like, okay, is she going to even know who her dad was? Are my kids going to remember me? So with that in my mind, I'm like, well, I got to make the best of life, make memories, enjoy your life. Because a lot of times, to me, people don't think about, certain things, like setting goals in life, trying things they've always wanted to do, but they're always too busy, or, they think they can't do it. So in a weird way, the brain cancer has kind of been a blessing to me, because it's kind of maybe changed my life, and focus on things that's important, set goals, push forward no matter what. I was never a runner before all this, so if something happens, like one thing we didn't quite mention it, but my first attempt at a marathon, I passed out like a quarter of a mile or so from the finish line. They took me by ambulance. So I could have stopped right then. My first marathon, not finishing it, I could have stopped, The race director called me. He was like, are you done? Because he did the training programs. I was like, no. So now here it is. I've completed 97 marathons now in less than 10 years. It's all because of this. I mean, make the best out of life. You know, you don't know what's going to happen, no matter what the negative stuff is. Just push forward, you know, make the best of it. I don't want to sit here and think about when something bad happens. I don't want to think about the negative because it's just wasting time and it's wasting my life. You know, life isn't guaranteed. You don't know how much time you're going to have. So make the best out of it. Set your goals, you know, like there's so many things. Like I never thought I would have written a book, you know, but hey, I did. You know, anyone can do what they want to. You know, it's just nothing is stopping you but yourself. So
I think that's fabulous. So now I'm going to pick your brain, the good side, and
what's left.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, what have you learned about nutrition during your runs? Because that, you know, I think that's the big curve that I've seen so far. You know, marathon, like you said, you can hit the wall about mile 18 and you might have to slow down a little bit, but your body catches up and you go on. Even I noticed a 50 miler, you know, at mile 30, things start to change as far as your ability to tolerate certain foods. And so nutrition becomes, and the further you go, the nutrition becomes key as far as if you're going to go through with it.
Sure.
So what have you learned there?
It's a variety of things. I mean, starting off, obviously, to me, what would work would be finding out what works for you, find out what you can tolerate. But, you know, have a variety of things that you like. So that way, if you get tired of eating or drinking that same thing, you have your backups and stuff. But really, what I've like after doing all the hundreds now, you never know what's going to happen. You know, you might end up eating something on the aid station that you never had before just because you're freezing or something. I mean, you never know what condition is going to happen. But overall, plan, you know, get your own stuff. You know, if you want to go like the more stuff that people try to train a lot, you know, find the stuff that works for you. Maintain those, have those on hand, have your crew have everything for you. But also if you're doing it solo or whatever, sometimes like some of the best stuff I've had was things I never expected to have at an aid station just because, you know, I was in a different state or, you know, like when I did long haul this past year, it was like really cold. It's ironic. It was ironic that was one of the coldest runs. I think probably was the coldest 100 or any one I've ever done. It was in Tampa. Like, I mean, I ran up in Denver up like snow mountains and stuff, and it was nowhere as cold as Tampa was. I remember the back of my jacket when I finished, it had ice all in the back of my jacket. But yeah, so I mean, each person's different, really. You know, sometimes I will say this one thing I did learn too. So I'm not going to say the race, but like one of the races had like a food truck. I mean, a lot of them do, but these days. But whatever at that food truck the night before, it affected a lot of the runners. So like, I mean, everyone like later on the run, the farther distance, like everyone kept having like stomach issues, had to go, you know, and so you might want to be careful stuff you eat the night before, you know, if it definitely, you know, focus on stuff that you know that works for you. I guess that's the best thing I can say.
Live back to live and learn, right? Live and learn.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you never know. I mean, even with your own stuff, you might get tired of it. You know, something might switch in the middle of like, you know, middle of the night, but like, I can't take this anymore. You know, I want something else, some other taste or, I mean, it's just, it is what it is. You just have to deal with it, really. And, you know, find what works and get it done.
There you go. All right. Well, like I said, your book was very well written. It reads easy. There's a lot of wisdom packed in there, whether you're a runner, a cancer survivor, or just someone that doesn't matter. I think it's good for everybody, you know, and it's certainly motivating. So congratulations. I can't wait to see you in person in the 100-miler. You can, I'll say, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. So what do you know about the new course for long haul?
We actually went up a couple weeks ago and did one loop of it.
Okay.
And, it is, it's nice. It's all flat. Most of it is wide grass lanes,
Okay.
like, maybe it's wider than, say a Kubota or something. So maybe 1.5 golf cart wide, a lot of it. And some of it is under canopy, some of it's out. So we ran it like at 3:00 in the afternoon, and it was hot, but it was, a month or so ago.
Okay.
And then there's some that's, on a packed dirt trail that you run, undercover a little bit. There was a sloppy area that won't be sloppy, in the wintertime because it doesn't rain, but that wasn't even bad.
Sure.
There's a pavilion at the start, that's enclosed that they get to use. And then there's a camping area, like you hit it about at 4 miles and it's 7 miles. That's going to be like the main, a main place that you could have a crew.
Okay.
And they're real bathrooms out on the course, like in a state park. So that's actually a plus. But yeah, I thought it was nice and the grass is not like, lumpy stuff. It's actually, I never felt like I was going to twist an ankle or really had to worry about it. So I was pleasantly surprised about that, and I don't think, I've not run through the night yet.
Okay.
So, but it doesn't seem, pardon me?
That's the fun part.
Yeah. So I'm an okay person from 4 a.m. forward and probably to 11, but that 11 to 4 thing is going to be new ground. That's time that, but it's not, but it looks like, and it's in, I would say, virtually impossible to get lost.
Okay.
I'll probably be lost now that I said that, but there's only really one place that, if you don't have your wits about you, you might run past it maybe, but I'm sure it'll be marked. So I think it'll be nice. I think it'll be real nice up there.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it because I get my MRIs, my follow-ups is once a year. And last year, the reason this year I did long haul because my appointment was like 2 days before long haul. So once again, it happens to be the same thing this year. However, I want to see if I can reschedule my appointment to be the days after the 100-miler because I want to see what my brain looks like after running a 100-miler.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably be pretty cloudy looking more than it already is, but I'm just interested what that looks like, after running that far.
Well, good. Again, I wish you all the luck in your future and with the book, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Thanks a whole lot for taking the time.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me, and looking forward to running with you at the 100-miler.
Perfect. All right. See you soon.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the interview with Greg as much as I did. It's amazing how things come when you need them the most, so to speak. Certainly his book was great timing for me. I also ran into another podcast that I'll link that there was a psychologist talking about savoring. And it's a lot about what Greg talked about too, without even knowing the terminology, but savoring the moment or finding things about a particular time or good things that you can kind of hang on to. Often we're very good at looking about what's wrong, but we forget about the little things that are right. And if you can savor the moments, savor the good moments, it makes for some good memories. I'm going to end with the part of a poem that we shared for my mother's memorial. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full. I savored much. Good friends, good times, and a loved one's touch. I hope you savor the moments and can live life as full as the diva did. Rest in peace, Mom.